class.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another live community classroom with Michaels. We have our friend Marley Bird with us today to learn how to make this adorable checked bag. My name is Renee L. from Yarn Inspirations, and I'll be helping with any questions you might have during today's class. Please feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and I'll make sure that Marley answers them. While we're getting ready to kick things off, let us know where you're watching from. Over to you, Marley.
Hey everybody, how are you doing? I see a lot of familiar faces, so that's really nice to see you all joining me here. I am thrilled to be back here with Michaels teaching you another class, and we get to make a crocheted bag today. Now, some of you might not know this, but one of my very first forays into website stuff was to design crochet bags. So I really do enjoy making them. And the beauty is that it doesn't take a whole lot of skill to make a bag as long as you can understand basic bag construction and you have a pretty good, I like to call them like sturdy stitches that can hold together a bag. You don't have to line them. You can line them, but you don't have to. And you could just have a lot of fun making them. So it's a great adventure into something for somebody who might be a little bit beyond a beginner, or it's a great project for somebody who might be a little bit more experienced looking for a project that's a little bit easier. Now, today's bag, it's called the Checker It Out crochet bag. You guys have probably already seen it clearly. This bag is very basic construction. It has a front and a back panel, and then there has a bottom base, and then the side panels and the strap are all made as one long strip. So essentially, you're just making 4 pieces and then stitching the bag together. So it's a really quick bag. So my goal in this class is I want you guys to learn how to do the actual stitching of the bag, because that is the fun part. It uses 2 different colors of this Caron cotton cakes yarn. Now, the cotton cakes yarn is a cotton and polyester blend yarn, mostly cotton, just a little bit of polyester for those little like tufty eyelashy bits to it. Can you guys kind of see them as they halo out? We'll take a closer look when I go down to my hands. But by working these 2 colors together in a checkerboard sort of layout, we get a fun look. As long as you know how to do a chain stitch, how to do a single crochet, I will teach you how to carry the yarn across so that way you can change colors as needed. And then we'll discuss how you would seam this all together when you're done. Sound like a plan, you guys? All right, so I'm going to switch down to my hands and we're going to go from there. Let me come over here. It's been a long time since I've done this. Let's make sure I do this right. And hey, there I am. All right, let's move the camera. All right, as I promised, the Caron cotton cake yarn. This color is the sugar teal color. And you can see it has a cotton base. The white section in here is a cotton base. And then that teal that kind of wraps around it, that's the polyester that it has these little eyelashes that come off of it. So it has a little bit of a softer feel than a basic cotton yarn, and it's nice. It's a little bit thin, so it makes it really great for any sort of like wearable or accessory. And it's just lovely. So you would use a smaller size hook for this bag. So they have you using a 4.5 millimeter hook. And the reason you want to do that is you want these stitches to be really, I'm going to say, like I said, dense. You want them to be able to hold the weight of having stuff in your bag, right? So this is the stitch pattern we will be working up together, and we change colors every 3 stitches is what's going to happen. All right. Now, it might be a little bit tricky for those of you who've never done this technique before with this yarn the first time. If you wanted to use a like a smooth yarn just to give it a try, you can do that as well, whatever you find easiest. Let me get this out of the way the best I can. All right. You want to make sure first you're going to assign a color A and a color B. The pattern itself uses sugar teal as well, and it considers this a color B. So I'm just going to stick with that as my color B, and I'm going to stick with the lemon lime color, which is, I mean, guys, this stuff is righteous. Like, it's beautiful. I'm going to have that as my color A. And we begin with the bag base with our color A. So we're going to chain 13. Hey, Renee, is my camera focused enough on my hands? I just want to make sure it's clear.
Yeah, looks
Okay,
good.
good. All right, so we're gonna start off with a slip knot. And just in case you guys don't know how to do that, you're gonna take the tail of your yarn, put it in the palm of your hand, take your working yarn, wrap it around your forefinger and your middle finger. And when you turn your hand over, cross that yarn like right over top, right? Did I do that right? I'm gonna think this through. I'm sorry. Cross it over and then turn your hand. We try this one more time. Palm of your hand, forefinger, middle finger, cross over. Rotate your hand, go underneath the front, grab the back and pull it off. You get yourself a slip knot. There's lots of different ways to make a slip knot. That usually is the easiest way for me to describe how to do it. But if you have another way, that's perfectly fine. Okay. Now we want to chain 13, and we don't want these to be super duper tight. And again, we don't want them to be very, very loose. Okay. So we're going to take our yarn, make sure you hold your slip knot. It'll help you have control. And then you have your hook going from left underneath the yarn up towards the right. Grab the yarn with the hook, and when you pull your hook through that slip knot, if you have it, you kind of see it's like a teardrop. If you pull your hook through just like so, you won't get any sort of a snag. Make sure that loop goes to the hook itself so that way it gets the right size, and you repeat left, underneath, and back up, and then pull through. That's number 2, number 3, number 4. It's at this point, I usually will move my hand up so I'm back up underneath my hook and give myself some stability. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Okay. So we are creating the base, and we're going to create the base working short. Okay. We aren't creating the base the long ways. We're doing short sections. So going into the second chain from hook, I feel like I am not focused. Is that better? That seems better to me. Okay. Second chain from hook. So you never count the loop on your hook as a stitch. So that's the first chain from hook. Here's the second chain from hook right here. We're going to take our hook and just pierce right through that chain. Okay. Yarn over our hook and then pull that yarn over right through the chain that you went into. So now you have 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over and draw through 2. Okay. We're going to do that into the next one also. So the next chain, we're going to go into the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2. So that's 2 single crochet. In the next one, we're going to do another single crochet, but in our last yarn over and draw through, we are going to introduce a new color. So this is where things change up, okay? Go into the next chain, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop. And because we want our final loop to be our new color, it's at this point we will drop our color A, pick up your color B, just leave yourself a little long tail, and then yarn over your hook with your color B and pull that through. When you're changing colors, more often than not, this is how you will change colors in any sort of a project, you guys. The final draw through of whatever your stitch is, you'll do it with your new color because then you don't get a color bleed as we go to the next stitch. So we're going to go over to the next stitch and we're going to do a single crochet, but we're also going to take the yarn that we aren't using, so our color A, and we're just going to essentially rest it right on top of that stitch that we're going to be going into, okay? So I'm going to go into my next chain. If you take your yarn, just kind of rest it on top of your hook there, the yarn I'm not using, yarn over with the yarn I'm using, and then pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2. I've now essentially crocheted into that stitch and around the yarn I didn't use. So it's going to lock in that yarn. So when it's time to change colors down here again, it'll be down there waiting for me. Okay. I will tell you guys, these first couple rows are the hardest rows, so don't give up. And if you have to set it down, rip it out, and start again, that's perfectly okay. Just to be truthful, I had to do that myself the first couple times I started. Yarn over and pull through. And we'll do this for the third time, but on this one, we will change colors. So yarn over, pull up a loop. I will drop my color B, pick up my color A that's over there waiting for me, and then yarn over and pull through with my color A. Now, as I'm working the next 3 stitches with my color A, I'm going to make sure my color B is going to be crocheted around also. So I go into the next chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Go into the next chain. Again, can you see how my yarn's just resting up there? Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2. Go into the next chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, drop this color because I'm on my 3rd stitch, right? Pick up the next one or the color B, yarn over and pull through 2. So I've changed colors and I'm ready to go to the last. So these are the last 3 chains. I still will crochet over these, okay? Still crochet over. I'll do this for the last 3. So 1, 2, and 3. Now on this 3rd one, I am not going to change colors yet because once I do that, I will chain 1 and turn, and I'm still using this same color, okay? Because I'm going to stack. It's 3 stitches and 3 rows with the same color. So I don't change colors. But when I start working back, my yellow is down here, right? I want to make sure that I grab this yellow and start working it behind here. Now, this is where I'm going to pause just for a second. Pretend I didn't turn. I'm going to set this down. So we're in the instructions, it lets you know that this first row here, this is a right side row. So that means I'm going to take a little marker here and I'm just going to put it right here on this side of my work. And what that's going to do is not only let me know that's the right side, so when I'm turning back and forth, I know where I am, but it will also remind me that as I'm carrying that yarn color that I'm not using, I want to make sure it's always being carried on the opposite side from my right side. Because if I carry it and I have it sort of on this side of my work, you're going to see it. It's going to bleed through. So you always want to try and have the float or the carried yarn that you're working be on the opposite side. Okay. So with this marked and then turning my work, I know that as I come back, this yellow right here, right? This yellow here, I'm not going to hold it over there and crochet around it like I did on the way down, right? And I'm not doing that because if I did that, it'd be close on the right side, correct? I don't want that. So I want to make sure as I'm carrying this, it's going to be over here on the wrong side. So here is how I do this. Let me get my hook in here. I already did my chain 1. I turned. This is what I do. So I know I'm going to be single crocheting here. I actually put my hook underneath the yellow, go into my first stitch there, and now my yellow is essentially, it's like been lifted up and put into place of where I need it. Does that make sense? Can you all see that? Do I have to show you again? Here's my yarn. So this is the yarn I'm not using that I want to carry. I've turned. Ultimately, I want to crochet into this stitch right here, but I want to make sure I'm crocheting around that yarn too. So I kind of put my hook underneath that yarn, just lift it up. Then I go into the stitch. So now that yarn that I need to crochet around is up in the right place. And then I complete my single crochet. You all with me? And then I'll do it to the next one. So I'm going to do 3 of these. And notice I'm holding this float really towards the wrong side, right? So that was 2. And then this will be the 3rd one. This time, when I drop my blue, I don't want to drop it over here because that would be towards the right side. I bring my blue, I bring it back, I fold it back over here towards the wrong side, pick up the other color, and work. Make sense? So I'm going to go over here, make sure I'm carrying my blue. I'll do my single crochets. The hardest part with this pattern, you guys, is really just the yarn management of making sure that you change colors when you need to, and make sure you are not pulling that float yarn too tight because it could start to make your fabric not lay correctly, like your edges will pull in too snug. So you just want to make sure you're creating all of the stitches the same size. So I've changed colors. Oop. So right here, I accidentally finished on the third one. So I just put my hook back in, undo it. And then switch it up. How's it looking, Renee? Everything look okay?
Oh, sorry, I realized I started talking and I was still muted.
That's all
Marley,
right.
is it possible for us to zoom a little bit more on?
Sure. Let me, like that.
Yeah,
Let
I
me see,
think,
is
yeah,
it in focus?
yeah,
Yeah?
we are in focus. That is
Okay,
very visible. Thank you so much.
awesome. Not a problem. All right, so I'm at the end once again because I'm going to work another row where I'm stacking these colors, right? So I'm not going to change colors down here. I'm going to go ahead and finish that third one, chain one, and turn. And this time, once again, now my marker, I can see it. So I want to make sure as I'm carrying my floats this time, I'm going to go back here. Okay, hopefully that makes sense to you guys. So here's how I do this one. I would go in and I just pick up my float and I just rest it on top. You see that? And then I finish. You guys will have to let me, or Renee, just make sure you let me know if I get out of focus, because if I get too far away from my camera when it's this close, it will get out of focus, and I want to make sure I'm not doing that.
No worries. I'll keep an eye.
Thank you. I want to be as helpful as possible to everybody. All right, so I'm at the third one, right? So this time I will change colors. So I drop it to the back. Always think about you're dropping your yarn to the wrong side, whether it's to the front or the back, it's to the wrong side. I'm picking up my other color and going. And it's often, guys, I will switch colors like that. Like I've held this back here, and then I'll just start going and I forget to trap this. So it happens to me. I know it might happen to you, but I just want to remind you, just undo your work and then go back and catch it. You just try and hold it to the back. And you guys can see, like, it's even fiddly for me. I've been crocheting a long time. So give yourself some grace if you're struggling with this a little bit, because it is just a little bit tricky with this yarn management here at the start. Once you get going, it becomes a lot easier. But here at the beginning, it is tricky for sure to remember to drop and pick up. I've done a couple of gingham style projects with this technique. Like I did an entire poncho that's beautiful with dropping the yarn color and picking it up, you know, later on as you're doing the squares. And it can be a really great way to combine two completely different colors of yarn, whether they're solids or variegated. You can get some really great looks. So, And it must be a thing with the whole checker because with this one being called the checker me out, like my poncho is the check me out poncho. Same sort of deal because it's all checks, you know? Um, anyways, all right. This was my third row, right? And we did the repeat. Remember I said it was 3 stitches and 3 rows. So now that I'm at the end of this third row, I will be changing colors at the end down here, okay? So I will drop my blue, change to my yellow, chain 1, and turn. And so now this will be the first row where I'm setting it up that it will be different than that check, okay? So now we're going to put the blue on top of the yellow and the yellow on top of the blue. So just like before, I tend to grab whatever yarn I'm going to be carrying across, go into my stitch, and I carry on. And we changed colors so that way we don't have a color bleed, like it's all yellow, right? The stitch is all yellow. You don't have to worry about any sort of blue fading through. And this is the repeat. So we're going to work through all of this. The repeat, it's a 6-row repeat. And as you're working through the pattern, you'll notice that the pattern tells you to either end on a row 3 or a row 6. So, I mean, if you think of it logically, you're just ending after you complete a block, whether it's the block that we just finished or the block that we're starting now and getting ready to finish. So you either end on a row 3 or a row 6 as you're working through this pattern. And we're working with single crochets. Oh, look, I did it again. I finished the last one. Happens quite a bit when I'm not thinking about it. Now, when I first started doing these, I was really caught up with, do you cross over your floats here, right? Do I cross them over? Do I make them so they don't cross over? Like, do I make it so it doesn't cross over? The real answer is it doesn't matter too much if you're keeping these stitches nice and snug and the yarn itself is hidden as you're transitioning from one color to the next. It's not going to show whether you cross it over or not cross over. So don't get hung up on that when you're doing the yarn changes. I will tell you that if you try and keep it somewhat consistent by not crossing it over or crossing it over one way as you change from one color to the next, but then another way as you go to the opposite color, sometimes it's easier for the yarn management tangle wise. So like this one, see, I put the yellow on top of the blue. And so as I go now, it's not tangled down here. It's not tangled. So you just kind of just play with it as you go along. Just make sure you get 3 stitches of each color. And I'll just keep going here. Renee, are there any questions happening right now? I can't look up at the chat because I'm working along here.
No worries. No immediate questions about the pattern, but if anybody has any questions, please let us know.
Yeah. I will say this is the first time I've worked with this yarn, Renee, and it's delightful. I don't find it as hard to work with as some other cotton yarns that I've worked with. Like it has a nice flexibility to it. And I don't know if that's because it's not as thick as some others or if it's the polyester, but it feels good to work with.
That's amazing. It adds just such a nice, like, little touch of something extra to these projects, just a little bit of
Yeah.
texture without it being like annoying. Like
Yeah. Like
for
when
any of
I
y'all who have
first
sensory sensitivities.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I first saw it, I thought about instantly, like I would like to have, did I just do what I told everybody? No, I didn't. I would like to have like a beach blanket with it. Like I think that would be really great. Or like a sarong would actually be really awesome with this, I think. I don't know. I like the way this feels. It had some really great colors and some neutrals that were available at the store when I went.
And there was some really good like hat patterns, just like really
Oh,
cute little summer accessories. I Can't
Yeah,
remember
I
if
can
the
see like a
bandana was
bucket
in it.
hat in this. Is there a bucket hat pattern at your inspirations?
There is actually a matching bucket hat.
Well, geez. Look at this, guys. You could be matchy matchy, super
Hmm.
accessorize.
It's very 90s, like the coordinated set, the
Oh
bucket
yeah.
hat.
That you're talking my era, girlfriend. That's where that was my style. I was all about the denim. I was like denim on denim on denim.
Would you put a newsboy cap in this? Do you think there's enough structure? You have
Oh
that amazing
gosh.
like J-Lo cap pattern.
If you hold on, I'm gonna pause for a second. Did you guys see I switched colors and I wasn't supposed to because I got in a habit? I think you possibly could. I think for my newsboy hat pattern that I do, I think I'd probably have to make the brim or the bill probably with a smaller hook so that the cotton would hold its shape for the bill. But with the floppiness of the newsboy, yeah, I think you totally could do that. I think
Do
that would be
you
cute.
reinforce the bill with anything or like
I don't. Well, I'm going to give you a little secret. So I designed a special bill, a crochet bill pattern that I do where it does not require any sort of reinforcement. Like the way the bill is constructed, it holds its shape and it actually does not like lay flat to the face. Um, it's perfection, Renee. I mean, it's perfection. It's so amazing. I love it so very much. Could you add structure to the bill? Yes, you could. You could use um like plastic canvas, or you could do cardboard. I've seen people do interfacing. There's all sorts of different things you could do. Or you could just follow Marley Bird's perfect bill and you don't need it. Not to shameless plug, sorry. Shameless plug, but it really is perfect. It's fantastic. I'm curious how many here in the room are following along with me. It's getting easier, right? Tina, is it getting easier? Come on, I know you, come on, you got it, girlfriend. I know you can do it.
So we had
Carrie,
a
how's it going
question.
for you? Is it good? No? Everybody's shaking their head. Okay, if you're shaking your head, tell me what are you struggling with so that way I can try and help. Let's see. Way behind starting over. That's okay. You can absolutely start over. Look, I'm at the end of my repeat here, right? Did I do 3? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I'm at the end of my repeat, so it's like I'm starting over. I'm going to be right where you are. Hold on. Let me change colors here. And then as I chain 1 and turn, I'm exactly where you are. I'm back on row 1. So if you're starting over, here we go. I just happen to be working in actual stitches and not into a chain. Okay. Having trouble carrying the yarn, abandon the first attempt. I completely understand. With this, it's one of those things you want to make sure, you guys, you're not pulling it like think about it. Yarn, it does, if it's like this, it doesn't have any give, right? So if I'm just holding this really, really super straight, I'm not going to have any give in this piece, which the fact that it's the bottom of the bag, it's not necessarily terrible, but we want to make sure we do have don't pull it super tight, just a little bit of give, a little bit of slack. It does help that we're changing colors every 3 stitches, so we get a chance to get some slack, but we're just going to hold it. So I have the right side facing, so I'm going to carry this on the wrong side. So I'm using my yellow. My yarn is hanging out over here. I'm going to go into that first stitch. I want to make sure I have the yarn that I'm carrying. I'm literally just resting it on my hook. And then when I grab my project again so that I can pull my yarn through, I'm holding the yarn, the non-used yarn and the project yarn. So when I yarn over with my yellow and pull up, I don't have to worry about the project yarn or anything, or the non-used yarn at all. I just finished my single crochet. And then I go to the next one. I'm into the stitch. The unused yarn is just resting on the hook. It's just resting there. So when I yarn over with the yellow and I pull through, see how it's enclosing that yarn there and it's just coming through the stitch I went into. So it's just encasing it. And then I finish. And then I do my last one. Make sure it's resting on top. Yarn over, pull up a loop. Here's where I change colors. So I'm dropping my color to the back. I'm not going to care if they're twisted together or not. Doesn't matter to me. I just want to pick up my blue. Pick up my blue. Be careful you're not, when you pick this up, don't pull it real tight because that will pull from down here and pull in your side. Just pick it up and just finish your single crochet. If you find you are struggling changing the colors directly right down here from the very start, if you just wanted to do the first row in just one color and then go into changing colors, you could do that. I mean, nobody says you can't, right?
If we're at a stage where changing colors and yarn management is like just maybe a tomorrow step to learn, how would you approach this if you wanted to do it all in one color and you're still
literally just do the single crochets. Like you could, okay, let's get through, let's just change it up here. Instead of me using the blue at all, let me go back like if I was just starting with you guys. Let's just pretend I'm not using the blue. We could just do single crochets. Now, it's not going to give you the same density because we aren't carrying the yarn, which is fine. You could always go down a hook size. You could always make it a little bit larger if you wanted, but you could just do single crochets.
there you go.
You what?
I said, there you go.
Yeah,
There were some
you could
folks
do
who
this.
were
I
looking
mean,
a little stressed. That was like, you know what? You could just do it one color if you wanted to.
oh, you could absolutely do it one color. And depending on how much, you really want to have fun with it, you could change up the stitch pattern. It doesn't just have to be single crochets. It could be a griddle stitch, which is a single crochet, double crochet combination. So like I'm just using single crochets for this, right? But let's say I chain one and I turn and I could do a single crochet and then do a double crochet. Let's try this. Let's just see how loose it gets. And then do a single crochet and then do a double. Like this is going to be much more textured because by putting that single crochet next to the double, you're crunching up that double crochet so you get a really good texture on top of the textured yarn itself. Let me go through here. This is actually one of my favorite stitches. And then I end with a double. Chain one, turn, start with a single. So my singles will go on top of my doubles. And then my doubles go on top of my singles. So on and so forth. So I'm just going to keep going here. I mean, this is way easier than changing colors. You can see I'm cruising right along.
The quick version.
Yeah, you could do stripes even. I mean, if you wanted to do striping. Let's see here.
You could do alternating too. Like if you wanted to just start off doing probably one color, as you mentioned, for like the first row or two, as you get comfortable, then add checks later.
Yeah. So like it's hard to tell because the color, it's all combined, but like doing a pattern stitch, you don't get much out of it. So just stick with single crochets. Single crochets are going to make it more sturdy, I think. More sturdy for sure. You could also, for structure wise, let's say you wanted to, I'm going to cut this if we're just going to be going along. Because somebody is asking about an ombre or whatnot, what if we held two yarns together? How much of a difference is that going to make, like size wise, right? So let's just pretend we're going to use two yarns and we're just going to hold them together the whole way. Let's just try it. Same sort of idea, right? I'm doing my slip knot. I would chain, now I probably wouldn't chain 13 because they're not gonna be as small. So let me just chain a few here. This is already, I mean, because I didn't change my hook size, right? But I've doubled the size of the yarn. And then I could go in here. I went to the second chain from hook, and I'm just doing single crochets, making sure the hardest part with this is making sure when you go around this that you get both loops. But imagine this yarn, imagine it like had a natural like changing of colors in it. You would, if you're doing this, you're going to get a really beautiful changing of colors because of the yarn mixing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But
We've
just
seen that
doing
with some other patterns, I think, before as well. Like an ombre is really nice in a check pattern.
oh, absolutely. That's what my check me out poncho is. It's with some tweedy type yarn that has a really beautiful changes of colors. But just doing that, you can see the density of this. I mean, it's really thick compared to what this is. Can you see? Like it's real thick. But it's another way to get a different look if that's what you were going for. Does that make sense? I don't know.
I think so.
I'm trying to think of what else. So, I mean, overall, now I gotta focus because I'm down here. Sorry. That's what happens with the high-end cameras, y'all. So overall, this is your stitch pattern, right? This is the stitch pattern that you use for the whole piece. So you make your base and you make it to be 12 inches. And then it tells you to make the sides and the strap, which if you look at the pattern, I don't know if you guys can look at your own, it's also 13 stitches or 13 chains. So you're going to do the exact same thing. However, when you repeat it until it measures 12 inches, you will then put a marker on each end of the last row. And then you continue on until the strap measures 36 inches and you put a marker. And then you continue on again until it all measures 48 inches. So it's another 12 inches. So essentially what you're doing, if I can grab a piece of paper here. And where's my pen? There it is. So we have our base here. So we have 12 inches, right? And then you're going to make your strap. So you're going to make your strap going up 12 inches, and then you place a marker. And then you're going to continue on with this strap. So you continue on with this strap until it measures 36 inches. Is that what it was? 36. So 36 minus 12 is 24, right? So this is 24 inches. So that together. And then you place a marker. And then you continue on until you get this side of your purse and you're 12 inches. Does that make sense? Everybody with me? So this is all one piece. Then you're going to go in and you make your panels. So you're going to make 2 of these because this panel here, this is what is the side of your bag, right? This would be flat. Obviously, it's not going to be up like that. But this panel. So when it all sews together, imagine this is all the panel. And then here's your base. So these will be stitched together. But you start off by stitching together your panels to each side of your base. And then you stitch this panel up the sides here to the markers. So that's why the markers are there to let you know that that's where that's going to meet up. Does that all make sense? So this looks like a bunch of chicken scratch, but it all comes out where you have 4 pieces, right? And it's a front and a back, the base, and then this big panel here. So this 12-inch base that we've been starting right here, right? Well, we worked on this one together. If this was taking you a long time, just imagine how much it's going to take for you to get the whole strap together. So that's where you really want to be able to understand how the color changes go. And it really does, I promise, it really does get faster as you keep going. But if you didn't want to have checks through the whole thing, you could just have checks on the panels, like the two panels and maybe the side and the strap. Maybe you do the base as just a plain single crochet, or maybe holding two yarns together until it measures 12 inches by whatever the width is here. This looks like it's about 3 inches or so. But does that help? Can you connect the base to the strap? Richie, my instinct would be yes, make it one big circle. That would be my instinct, but that's not the way the pattern's written. So then it makes me wonder if they didn't write it that because they wanted the structure of the seam to help hold the bag itself. Because seams really do help give the added structure, right? So if you had a panel, let's pretend this was our panel and this is our base. What it tells you to do is it says to take the base and your panel and you essentially put them with right sides together. So you have, or I'm sorry, wrong sides together. So the right side is facing you, and you would join with a slip stitch down here, and working through both fabrics, you would single crochet them together. And I want you to do that with your color B. So that was the teal. So you would take your teal, and if we start over here at the corner, I'm imagining this piece here is my panel and this is my my base. So I'm going on the long side of my base. So those are not my stitches, right? My stitches are over here. These are my rows. But then this is my panel. This is my stitches of my panel. And I'm just going to work through both. Poke it in there if I can get in there. Take your yarn. Am I still in focus? So you'll yarn over, pull through all of it. Start with a slip stitch, right? Chain one, and then single crochet. That's what it says. It says to, with color B, slip stitch, chain one, working through both thicknesses, single crochet evenly across the edge. So you just kind of, you're just going to kind of eyeball it. That's the beauty of the fuzzy yarn too. So just kind of poke it in, trying to make it as nice and neat as you can. And you will single crochet. You with me? It is tricky, I will not lie. You got to kind of work your, find a space to go into. And if you have the right side of your panel facing you as you do these single crochets, the top part of your single crochet will, as this is laying flat, that single crochet will kind of lift up. It'll be a decorative feature of your piece. Okay, so don't do it with the, my apologies. Don't do it with the base facing you, do it with your panel facing you. And that will have your stitches laying nice along that edge. So that way you'll have a beautiful seam, which becomes part of the feature of the bag, right? Just gonna keep going across here. I think the hardest part, make sure your ends are caught up together. All right. So it says to go down the base and then it says to fasten off, right? So it's at this point, this would open up, right? So it opened up, this is my base, but can you see what I mean about getting that little ridge right there? That would be along the base of your bag. Can you guys see what I mean by that? Yeah. So you do that along that base, and then you would do the same thing for the back panel, over here along this edge. And then it tells you then to line this all up. So you'd have the panels, both panels, and then you'd have your side here that you would then match up inside and seam along all of this in the same manner. It's all done with the single crochets. It's a bunch of single crochets. So you really let the yarn be the star here. You don't want to mess around with other stitches because they don't really show up, right? How are we feeling? I have some smiles. I have some perplexed looks. Not sure. I can't put it all together. I really enjoy doing the checker because it really starts to it really does become easier as you go along. These first 3 rows I think are the hardest parts as you're working through it. But I will honestly tell you, I enjoyed working the yarn itself. It was the first time I had used the yarn. I could totally see myself making something else with it. I actually really love this lemon lime color so very much. Especially with summer here, I could absolutely see myself making something with it. But I will tell you, I highly recommend using these markers here and having enough to where you can leave them on your panels and your base and your sides, so that way you don't lose place of where you are. They become very, very easy. And you don't have to have like a fancy one like this. You could just have, you know, something just real basic. Like it doesn't have to be super fancy. Okay, let's see here. When we connect the panel to the strap, i.e. row by row to row connection, is it still 1 stitch for each row? Shin 1, I would say it's not necessarily 1 stitch for each row. I would technically, you're supposed to, let's see, row to row. You could look at your gauge and see how many stitches compared to how many rows you're getting to kind of figure out how often it should be. Usually the single crochet is basically a square, so it's typically like 1 for 1, but I would be very cautious that if it looks like it's starting to get kind of puckered up on you, you know what I mean? Like it's starting to pucker up, then you're getting too many stitches. And at the same time, if it looks like it's stretching like this, actually, if you're puckering up, it's you're pulling in your fabric, you're getting too few stitches. If you're stretching like this, that means there's too many stitches. So you just want to make sure as you're working on it, just try and like keep setting it down and making sure that everything is lining up nice and neat, and try and just keep consistent. Like if you have found maybe it's over the course of 6 rows, maybe 5 single crochets over 6 rows works for you. Just keep that consistent as you're going. Hopefully that helps. Any other questions? I'm gonna pop over here and come say hi. Hello, it's me again. What do we think? Carrie, I see you just hanging out, just watching, like, is this really, can I do this? I know you can do this. Promise. Honestly, guys, it might take you a couple times to give it a try. And I mean, sometimes it'll take you a couple times and a frustrated walk away and then come back and give it a try. And that's okay. Just as long as you keep trying, that's the most important part of all of it. As far as lining the inside of your bag, as far as a resource, I don't have any particular resources offhand. Renee, do you have any particular ones?
I'll do some Googling on our side.
Okay, they're just tend to be asking, so I thought I made ask. Okay, I'm glad you guys will definitely give this a try, and let us know what yours looks like as you're working on it. Let us know what yarn you're using, what colors. We love seeing your work. I know that myself, whenever I see people making something that I help teach them to make, I love it when they tag me on social media. So if you will do that, I would love that. And I know that Yarnspirations and Michaels love seeing your stuff too. You can use hashtag Yarnspo for Yarnspirations or hashtag Make It With Michaels. I'm Marley Bird, so you just tag me, Marley Bird, on Instagram. I usually will find your work and I'll smash your like button. But that's it for me, you guys. I hope you'll have a chance to check out this bag. The instructions, I mean, I literally didn't look at this too much because it's pretty darn basic. Really, you just need to know that, right? You just need to know changing colors every 3 stitches and every 3 rows. And then just seam it all together. Pretty good stuff. All right.
All right.
There you go, you guys.
Amazing.
It's all
Thanks
back
so
to you,
much.
Renee.
Thank you so much, Marley, and thank you to all of you for joining us today. Just a little tip, you can save the chat if there were any links here today that you thought were helpful. You just hit the three little dots and then save chat, and that will all be somewhere in a folder for you. I'm not sure where. I am not your computer, but it will be findable. Um, please, as Marley mentioned, post your work and use hashtags Make It With Michaels and Yarnspo. That's YARNSPO. We love to see the amazing things you guys are working on. This is why we love doing our jobs. And there will be a recording available within 24 to 48 hours on the Michaels YouTube channel for you to follow along with. And just a reminder, you can find more classes on michaels.com and the recording at YouTube, as I mentioned.
Yeah.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye.